On our wedding anniversary, my husband, David, gave me a grand gift, a signed divorce agreement. He said Sarah, the one who got away his white moonlight, was coming back. After 5 years, he could finally give her the commitment she deserved. He said he was sorry, but love couldn't be forced. I looked at him. I looked at this man I had loved for 5 years. There was no guilt on his handsome face, only the relief and excitement of someone about to run toward his true love. Calmly, I picked up the pen. David, let's get a divorce. David pushed the document toward me, his tone as casual as if he were commenting on the weather. Sarah is back, he added, as if granting me a great mercy, a reason to bow out with dignity. Sarah. That name had been a thorn in my heart for 5 years. She was David's college classmate, the person he held at the very tip of his heart. 5 years ago, she went abroad without a word. David was depressed for a long time. Then, under family arrangements, he met me, and we married. I thought that 5 years was enough time to warm even a stone. It turned out he was just using my body warmth to survive the winter without Sarah. Now, his spring was returning. I picked up the agreement. David's signature was already there, bold and flowing, revealing his impatience to be done with this. He was leaving me everything, all the assets under his name, including the large riverside penthouse in the city center. He probably thought that money could buy out my 5 years of youth, buy out 5 years of meticulous care, buy out a wife's entire dignity. You're a generous man, I whispered. David's brows furrowed slightly, seemingly unaccustomed to my calm reaction. In his imagination, I should have been crying, screaming, asking him why, but I didn't. I just picked up the pen and wrote my name clearly on the wife line. Emily. My name, like me, was always a beat too slow. I was slow to realize when others were in love, and slow to let go when others broke up. But this time, I seemed to finally be a step ahead. After signing, I pushed the agreement back. Done. David was stunned. Surprise flashed in his eyes, immediately replaced by immense joy. He couldn't even hide the smile at the corners of his mouth. Emily, thank you for understanding. Don't worry. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can come to me. He stood up, looking like he had completed a difficult and glorious mission. Wait. I called out. He turned back, a flash of wariness and impatience in his eyes. He probably thought I was going to regret it or add conditions. I have one condition, I said. Money. Or another house. Anything I can give, I will. He said immediately, his tone charitable. I shook my head and looked at him. Tomorrow night, have dinner with me. David froze again. He hadn't expected my condition to be just this, a meal. The wariness in his eyes turned into a sliver of pity and guilt. Okay, of course. Where do you want to eat? I'll make a reservation. No need. I picked up my phone and lowered my eyes. I've already booked the place. Tomorrow night at 7. I'll send you the address. After speaking, I didn't look at him again. I walked straight back to the bedroom and closed the door. Outside, David stood for a moment, and then I heard his footsteps leaving light, brisk, even humming a tune. He was free. I leaned against the door panel, my body slowly sliding down. 5 years of marriage, like a long one-woman show. Now, the curtain was finally falling. I took out my phone and clicked on the profile picture I hadn't contacted in 5 years. It was grayed out, like a sealed memory. I sent 3 words. I'm divorced. Almost instantly, the gray profile lit up. The reply came even faster. Just 2 words. Wait for me. At 7 o'clock the next evening, I arrived promptly at the Vintage, a Western restaurant. This was where David and I had our first date. Ironically, it was also the secret base for me and someone else. David arrived before me. He had changed into a well-tailored suit, his hair meticulously styled, looking radiant. Seeing me, he stood up and pulled out the chair for me like a gentleman. Emily, you look beautiful today. I was wearing a simple black dress with very little makeup. I knew his praise was just a final politeness before parting. Thank you. I sat down. What would you like to eat? The usual. He picked up the menu. No need. I raised my hand and called the waiter. A glass of lemon water. Thank you. David frowned again. Why aren't you eating? It's bad for your stomach. No appetite. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. David seemed to want to find a topic to ease the tension. Emily, I know I've wronged you in this matter, but Sarah and I truly love each other. If her family hadn't had that accident back then, we would have. David. I interrupted him. I didn't want to hear him tell their love story. It would only make me feel like my last 5 years were a joke. You don't need to explain. I looked into his eyes and said calmly, I agreed to the divorce not to help you two, but to free myself. David's face changed, looking a bit embarrassed. He was used to my obedience and gentleness, forgetting that even a rabbit will bite when cornered. Are you still angry with me? No. I shook my head. I just feel it wasn't worth it. Wasting 5 years for a love that never belonged to Mike really wasn't worth it. He fell silent, looking down and cutting the steak on his plate, sawing at it as if he had a grudge against the meat. Just then, the restaurant door opened. A tall figure walked in. He wore a simple white shirt, sleeves casually rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His gaze swept the restaurant and then landed precisely on me. Our eyes met. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. He walked toward me, his steps unhurried. Every step seemed to land on my heartbeat. David noticed him too. He looked up, confusion and scrutiny in his eyes. The newcomer walked straight to our table and stopped. He didn't look at David. His gaze remained on my face, gentle as spring water. Am I late? He spoke, his voice deep and magnetic. I smiled. Not late. I stood up and turned to the bewildered David. David, let me introduce you. I took the newcomer's arm, leaning naturally against him. This is Alexander, my fiancé. The knife and fork in David's hands clattered onto the plate, making a harsh noise. The blood drained from his face instantly. His eyes widened like copper bells, staring fixedly at my hand holding Alexander's arm. Emily. What? What did you say? He stammered, unable to believe his ears. Alexander ignored his loss of composure. He just looked at me tenderly, then took a velvet box from his pocket. He opened the box and knelt on one knee, in front of David, under the gaze of everyone in the restaurant. A dazzling diamond ring lay quietly in the box, its brilliance stinging David's eyes. Miss Emily. Alexander's voice rang clearly through every corner of the restaurant. I missed you 5 years ago. This time, I don't want to wait anymore. Will you marry me? I will. I didn't hesitate for a second, extending my hand to Alexander. The moment the ring slid onto my finger, the cool touch made me incredibly clear-headed. Scattered applause and blessings rang out around us. Only David stood frozen like a statue struck by lightning. His face showed shock, humiliation, and disbelief. He probably never dreamed that his ex-wife, whom he was pitying just seconds ago, would be wearing another man's engagement ring the next moment, right in front of him. Emily. David finally reacted, standing up abruptly, knocking his chair over with a loud bang. What are you doing? Are you putting on a show for me? For revenge. His voice trembled with anger. I looked at him and suddenly found it funny. Revenge on you. David, you think too highly of yourself. I stood up holding onto Alexander and looked David in the eye. You waited 5 years for your true love. I just found mine again. We're even. You. David was too angry to speak, his handsome face turning the color of pig liver. Just then, the phone in his pocket rang inopportunely. He fumbled to take it out, and his face changed again when he saw the caller ID. He subconsciously wanted to hang up, but thinking of something, he pressed answer, keeping his voice extremely low. Hello, Sarah. From the other end came a delicate, sugary female voice. Not loud, but in the quiet restaurant. I heard it clearly. David, where are you? I'm already here. At the airport. When are you coming to pick me up? It was Sarah. She was back. David's expression became incredibly colorful, like a spilled palette. He looked at me, then at Alexander beside me, fine beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. He was probably getting a headache over how to explain the scene, which looked remarkably like he was the one being cheated onto his white moonlight. Sarah, just wait for me at the airport for a moment. I have something to deal with here. I'll be right there. As he spoke, holding his phone, he walked awkwardly toward the exit. What is it? Is it more important than me? The voice on the phone carried a hint of grievance and coquettishness. David walked faster, watching his fleeing figure. I felt no pleasure, only a desolate calm. Alexander tightened his grip on my hand, warmth flowing continuously from his palm. Let's go, he said. I nodded, walking out of the restaurant. The evening breeze was cool. Alexander took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The familiar scent, hinting of peppermint, surrounded me. Cold, he asked. I shook my head. Alexander. When did you come back? Yesterday. Why didn't you contact me? He stopped, turned, and looked at me seriously. I was waiting for you to contact me. His eyes were deep, seemingly able to see through all my disguises and bravado. I was afraid that if I appeared, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from stealing you back. My heart trembled violently. What if I never contacted you? Then I would wait until you divorced, until you were single again, until you were willing to look at me again. Alexander said decisively. I waited 5 years. I don't mind waiting another 5 or 10. My eyes heated up without warning. 5 years ago, we separated due to a ridiculous misunderstanding and family opposition. I thought he had long forgotten me and started a new life. I didn't expect he had been waiting for me, just like David waited for Sarah. It turned out I wasn't an unloved child. It was just that the person who loved me arrived a step late. No, perhaps now. The timing was just right. Just as I was about to speak, a taxi screeched to a halt in front of us. The door opened, and a slender figure in a white dress rushed out. She ran toward the direction David had disappeared, then slammed to a halt when she saw Alexander beside me. It was Sarah. She must have been too impatient to wait and took a taxi to find him. She paused for a moment. Then her face assumed a fragile and innocent expression, her eyes instantly reddening. Sister Emily. She looked at me timidly, her voice choked with tears. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Please don't blame David. Okay, if you have to blame someone, blame me. Sarah stood there in her pure white dress, long hair cascading over her shoulders, red-rimmed eyes looking like a frightened deer. Truly pitiful. Seeing her like this, any man would feel a desire to protect her. That was exactly how she had David wrapped around her finger. Unfortunately, she picked the wrong target today. Before I could speak, Alexander stepped forward, completely shielding me behind him. His tall figure instantly blocked the gaze Sarah was casting at me, a gaze that appeared weak but was actually full of scrutiny and provocation. Miss. Alexander's voice turned cold, holding none of the tenderness he had shown me earlier. I think you're mistaken. My fiancé has nothing to blame you for. Sarah obviously hadn't expected someone to stand up for me, especially a man with such a powerful aura. She froze, tears hanging on her eyelashes, looking somewhat ridiculous. Fiancé, she repeated, her eyes darting between us in disbelief. Yes. Alexander's tone was flat, but carried an undeniable authority. We are celebrating our engagement. If you have nothing else, please do not disturb us. With that, he took my hand and turned to leave. Wait. Sarah panicked, forgetting to act fragile, and stepped forward to block our path. Sister Emily, I know you're mad at David. You can't just pick up some random man out of spite. I cut her off coldly. Miss Sarah. I stepped out from behind Alexander and looked her in the eye. First, David and I have already signed the divorce papers. Legally, we have no relationship. So, I don't need to explain anything to you. Second, Alexander is not some random man. He is the man I love. He was in the past, and he is now. Third, I paused, watching her face turn pale, and said word by word, please don't call me sister in the future. We aren't that close. Sarah's face turned green, then white. It was quite a show. She probably hadn't expected that I, who had always been as docile as a sheep in front of her, would suddenly become so sharp-tongued. Just then, David finally ran back, panting. Seeing Sarah, he was initially relieved, but upon seeing our confrontation, his face darkened. Sarah, why are you here? He walked quickly to her side, protectively holding her in his arms as if we were dangerous beasts. David, Sarah buried her head in his chest, crying aggrievedly. I was so worried about you. I called you as soon as I got off the plane. And you. There. It's okay. I'm here, aren't I? David whispered comfortingly to her. But when he looked up at me, his eyes were full of blame. Emily, if you have a problem, come at me. Don't make things hard for Sarah. She just got off a plane and her health isn't good. I almost laughed at his ability to distort the truth. Who was making things hard for whom? David, control your woman. Alexander's voice was cold as ice. Next time, it won't be settled with just words. His powerful presence made David subconsciously shrink back. You. Who are you? What gives you the right? Who I am isn't important. Alexander interrupted. What's important is that Emily is now my fiancé. Anyone who makes her unhappy is making an enemy of me. With that, ignoring the eyesore of a couple, he led me straight to the car parked by the road. Only when I got in did I realize it was a black Bentley. Low-key, but luxurious. As the car drove away smoothly, I saw in the rearview mirror that David and Sarah were still standing there. Sarah leaned into David's arms, while David stared fixedly in the direction we were leaving. His expression complicated. Don't look. Alexander's voice sounded in my ear. He's not worth it. I retracted my gaze, leaned back against the seat, and let out a long breath. A dream that lasted 5 years had finally ended. Although the process was a bit ugly, the ending didn't seem too bad. I thought things would end there. David and I would go our separate ways, never to cross paths again. But I forgot that some people can't stand seeing you happy even after you've separated. Just as we were nearing home, David called. I didn't want to answer, but the phone rang persistently. Frowning, I pressed accept. Emily, you can't do this. As soon as the call connected, David roared. You divorce me and immediately get engaged to another man. What will our parents think? Where does the Chin family's reputation go? David, are you questioning me? My voice turned cold. David choked, his momentum weakening by half, but still self-righteous. I'm just reminding you, our families are old friends. By doing this, you're embarrassing our parents. Have you considered their feelings? Parents again. Reputation again. He always used these things to suppress me. When you decided to marry me, did you consider my feelings? Now that you want to divorce me for Sarah, you're talking to me about parents' feelings. I sneered. David, can you stop with the double standards? That's not what I meant. Emily, stop being unreasonable. David got anxious. Anyway, you can't be with that man so quickly. At least wait until we finalize the paperwork and let some time pass. He was ordering me. He thought he was still the husband who could boss me around. My life is none of your business. I finished speaking and hung up directly. The world was quiet. Beside me, Alexander hadn't spoken. He drove quietly, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Was he always like this? He suddenly asked. So, self-righteous. I smiled bitterly. Pretty much. Maybe I was too accommodating before. It's not your fault, Alexander said. He doesn't deserve you. The car drove into a high-end gated community and stopped in front of a villa. We're here. I unbuckled my seatbelt and realized this wasn't my old home, nor the hotel I expected. Where is this? Our new home, Alexander said casually, as naturally as saying let's get dinner. I was stunned. New home? Yes. I figured you wouldn't want to go back to that place. He looked at me. Everything here is new, belonging only to us. My heart felt like it had been hit hard by something, aching, yet warm. David gave me a divorce agreement and a thank you. Alexander gave me a brand new beginning. Walking into the villa with him, the decor was my favorite minimalist style. It was fully furnished, and even the walk-in closet was filled with the season's latest women's clothing in my size. When did you prepare this? I asked in shock. Before I came back. That meant before I even contacted him. He had prepared everything for me. He was certain I would leave David. He was certain I would return to his side. This confidence, this favoritism, made me feel overwhelmed but incredibly secure. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother. I took a deep breath and answered. Mom. Emily, have you lost your mind? David told me everything. You want to divorce him and get engaged to another man. Are you crazy? On the other end was my mother's familiar shouting. Mom, I'm very sober. Sober. If you were sober, would you do something so shameful? Don't you know how much the Goof family helps us? Divorcing David now is ungrateful. He is the one who wants the divorce. I stated the facts calmly. For his white moonlight. Can't you just tolerate it? Men always wander a bit. As long as he comes home in the end. Isn't that enough? Making such a scene. Making things so awkward. Where will the Chin family put our face? Listening to my mother's accusations, my heart grew colder. In their eyes, my happiness and grievances were nothing compared to so-called family reputation and interests. Mom, I am not a tool for you to exchange for benefits. My mom was too angry to speak. The phone was snatched by someone else's sharp-tongued ex-mother-in-law. Emily, you shameless woman. How has the Goof family mistreated you? You couldn't lay an egg in 5 years. And we didn't despise you. Now you hook up with a wild man and want to kick my son aside. I tell you, you can divorce. But don't think about taking a penny from the Goof family. The shrill voice hurt my ears. I was about to retort when Alexander took my phone and put it on speaker. Madam. His voice was calm and steady, carrying an undeniable oppressive force. First, it wasn't Emily who wanted the divorce. Your son initiated it for another woman and told her to leave with nothing, though the agreement said otherwise. Second, regarding asset division, we will hire the best legal team to audit their joint assets over the past 5 years. I suspect your son has been using my fiancé's money to subsidize your family and his so-called true love. The other end went instantly quiet. Alexander paused and continued. Third, and most importantly, my fiancé doesn't care for anything from your Goof family. As a betrothal gift, I have transferred 10 of the shares of Winspeed Group to her name. I think this money should be enough for her to live comfortably for the rest of her life. So please, do not harass her again. Dead silence on the other end. I could even imagine my ex-mother-in-law's dumbfounded expression. Winspeed Group, a top domestic tech company, worth hundreds of billions. 10% of the shares was an astronomical figure the Goof family couldn't reach in several lifetimes. Click. I hung up the phone. The world was thoroughly quiet. I looked at Alexander, feeling a mix of emotions. He was always like this, appearing when I was at my lowest, blocking all the wind and rain for me. Just then, my phone screen lit up. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won. You have no idea what you're facing. This provocative text was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up ripples. Was it David? Or Sarah? Or the exasperated Goof family? I showed the phone to Alexander. He glanced at it, raising an eyebrow slightly, but his face remained expressionless. Just clowns, he said, handing the phone back. Ignore it. Hungry. It'll make you something to eat. I nodded. I hadn't eaten anything since last night. Watching Alexander busy in the open kitchen, the anxiety caused by the text gradually subsided. With him here, it seemed I didn't need to fear even if the sky fell. The next day, my legal team officially sent a lawyer's letter to David, initiating divorce proceedings. I only wanted the assets I brought into the marriage and my personal income. As for what David promised me, I didn't want a cent. I didn't want any ties with him. I thought it would be smooth since David initiated it and signed the agreement. Unexpectedly, David started delaying with various excuses. One moment the company was busy. No time for the Civil Affairs Bureau. The next, his parents disagreed, needing time to communicate. I understood. He regretted it. Or rather, he was unwilling. He couldn't accept that I, who used to be at his beck and call, found a partner 1,000 times better than him so quickly. His ego had been trampled like never before. Meanwhile, discordant voices began to appear online. A post titled 5 Years of Marriage Lost to Sudden Wealth. Wealthy family outcast hooks up with new love immediately. Why? Circulated quietly on major forums. The post painted me as a gold digger, fickle and vain. It claimed I abandoned my husband immediately because his company faced a crisis, seamlessly connecting with a richer tycoon. David was portrayed as the deeply affectionate man ruthlessly abandoned, yet still speaking well of his ex-wife. Sarah was depicted as an innocent victim who returned to find her beloved married and silently bore it all. The writing was emotional and included candid photos. Alexander and me at the restaurant. Him putting his coat on me. Us at the villa gate. The angles were tricky, making us look very intimate. On the other side were photos of David waiting anxiously and alone at the airport. The contrast was inciting. The internet exploded with insults toward me. This woman is too realistic. Right. Runs as soon as the husband has trouble. 5 years of feelings gone just like that. So cruel. That new guy looks rich. A Bentley. No wonder. Feel sorry for that man. He looks so pitiful. Reading those filthy comments, my hands and feet turned cold. I knew whose handiwork this was. Only Sarah. She excelled at playing the victim and manipulating public opinion. Don't be angry. Alexander took my phone away. It's not worth getting angry over such people. But they Leave it to me. His tone was calm but carried convincing power. I watched him pick up his phone and dial a number. Hello. It's me. Did you see the posts about Emily? I give you half an hour. I want all related posts and comments to disappear. Also, check the poster's IP and the source of those candid photos. And send me all the data on the South City project the GU Group is preparing to bid for. He hung up as if he had just ordered a trivial task. Half an hour later, I refreshed the page. The posts were gone, along with the malicious comments. Replacing them was a new exposé. Title: Shocking Reversal. The true face of the so-called deeply affectionate husband. The post laid out a clear timeline. Exact to the minute when David asked for a divorce. Exact to the minute when Alexander and I got engaged at the restaurant. The two events were less than 24 hours apart. The post also attached a screenshot of a transaction record. It was from one of my supplementary cards, a week before David asked for a divorce. This card spent 7 figures at a luxury jewelry store. That store was right downstairs from the hotel Sarah was about to check into. Irrefutable evidence. Public opinion flipped instantly. Holy crap. So the man cheated first and asked for the divorce, using his wife's money to buy gifts for the mistress. That's scum behavior. The ex-wife's move is textbook perfection. Well done. So the ex-wife didn't find a new love, but reunited with her first love. Just then, a verified finance influencer reposted the thread with a comment. Wait, this man, isn't this Alexander, who just acquired Future Tech? Future Tech is the GU Group's biggest competitor. This is going to be a good show. This comment was like a bomb, detonating the entire internet. Alexander acquired Future Tech, the GU Group's biggest rival. My head buzzed. I always thought Alexander came back just for me. I didn't expect he had commercial motives too. And this motive pointed directly at David's family business. Was this a coincidence? Or premeditated? I looked up at Alexander. He was leaning on the sofa, reading a document calmly, seemingly indifferent to the online storm. You acquired Future Tech? I asked. He looked up from the file, not denying it. Yes, a company with great potential. Just because it's Gus' competitor. Alexander put down the file and was silent for a moment. Not entirely. He looked into my eyes seriously. But if it happens to make certain unhappy people even unhappier, I don't mind. His honesty left me speechless. He never hit his goals, even if they sounded a bit ruthless. But I felt incredibly reassured. The online storm soon affected reality. The GU Group's stock price plummeted. Future Tech being acquired meant they lost a manageable rival and gained an enemy too powerful to resist. And this enemy was inextricably linked to the GU family's daughter-in-law Tobe. Rumors flew in the business world. The GU family's days were getting hard. That afternoon, I received a call from David. This time, he didn't roar. His voice was full of exhaustion and suppressed anger. Emily, was this planned by you and that man long ago? First divorce. Then he crushes my company. You just want to see me with nothing, right? His question sounded like a joke. David, have you forgotten that you were the one who asked for the divorce? I reminded him coldly. If you hadn't hooked up with him so fast, would things have turned out like this? He was still arguing irrationally. So, you mean, after you abandoned me for Sarah, I should have kept myself chaste for you, waiting for you to get bored and come back to me? I asked back. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? I pressed. Do you think that leaving you, I should live miserably to fit your imagination of an abandoned woman? David, your downfall was destined the moment you decided to betray our marriage. It has nothing to do with me. Or Alexander. I hung up, listening to the busy tone. David smashed his phone on the floor. His office was a mess. His father, the chairman, was hospitalized due to the stock crash. The company was in panic. Shareholders pressuring him. Desperate. He pinned his hopes on Sarah. He knew Sarah's father had some influence and might help bridge connections. But when he went to Sarah full of hope, he got evasive excuses. David, it's not that I don't want to help. My dad hasn't been well lately, and company matters are with managers. Plus, that Alexander has deep connections. Our family doesn't want to offend him easily. Sarah's words were like a bucket of ice water. He always thought Sarah was a fairy who would sacrifice everything for love. Only now did he realize fairies also care about worldly interests. In the face of huge interests, their love was incredibly fragile. Just as David was at a dead end, my ex-mother-in-law called again. No shrillness this time. Just crying. Emily. No. Mrs. Lou, please. I beg you. Talk to Mr. Lou. Let him have mercy on the Gu family. David. He is your husband after all. He isn't anymore. I corrected calmly. Mrs. Gu. When you told me to leave with nothing, this wasn't your attitude. The crying paused, then turned into a louder wail. I was wrong. Emily. Mom was wrong. I was blind. As long as you come back. As long as you make Mr. Lou stop. Mom will give you anything. The Gu family assets will be yours. She started making empty promises. I found it laughable. No need. I refused directly. David and I are impossible now. I hung up, not wanting to hear her fake pleas. Soon after, the doorbell rang. I checked the monitor. It was David. He stood at the door. Suit crumpled. Hair messy. Stubble on his chin. He looked haggard and defeated. Nothing like the man who confidently asked for a divorce. I didn't open the door. He waited from dusk until dark. When Alexander came back that night and saw David, he frowned. Seeing Alexander, David's eyes turned red. Like a trapped beast. He rushed over. Alexander, what do you want? Alexander dodged the punch and pinned David's wrist, subduing him easily. Mr. Gu. Trespassing and attempting assault. It seems the Gu family doesn't have enough trouble yet. Alexander's voice was cold, his eyes scornful. David struggled but was no match. Let go of me. Emily. Come out. Come out. He shouted. I opened the door and walked out. David, are you done making a scene? Seeing me, David's eyes changed danger mixed with pleading and fragility. Emily, make him let me go. Let our family go. Okay. He lowered himself, trying to move me with our past. We were together for 5 years. Even without love, there's affection, right? Remember, when we first married, you said you liked the sea, and I took you to Sonia the next day. Your birthday. He rambled on about those so-called sweet past moments. I listened quietly. My heart was calm. Yes. He took me to the sea, celebrated my birthdays, gave expensive gifts. He played the role of a perfect husband. But thinking back, that goodness was just a performance to keep me playing the role of Mrs. Gu. His heart held another person. All his gentleness was like completing a task. Now that the task was over, he turned away without hesitation. While David tried to awaken my memories, Alexander returned to my side. He held a cake from my favorite shop. He looked at David, didn't speak, but walked to me, put his jacket over my shoulders, and pulled me into his arms. Not a word said, but this action was more lethal than language. It was an undeniable possession, a silent declaration. David's monologue stopped abruptly, looking at our intimacy and the villa he could never afford. His eyes dimmed instantly. All anger and unwillingness became a joke in the face of absolute power. He staggered back 2 steps, giving a miserable laugh. Heh, you think he's a good person. He stared at me, a weird viciousness in his eyes. Emily, you're too naive. You have no idea what he did to get everything today. Ask him about that accident 5 years ago. The accident 5 years ago. David's words were like a poisoned thorn sticking into my heart. After sending the dazed David away, I closed the door and turned to Alexander. He stood in the entryway, his expression complicated, seemingly expecting David to say this. What accident? I asked, my voice dry. Alexander was silent. His silence magnified my anxiety. Alexander, tell me. I walked to him. He sighed, took my hand, and led me to the sofa. Emily, I didn't want you to know. His voice was low. 5 years ago, we separated not just because of your parents' objection. When I was preparing to find you and explain everything, I got into a car accident. My heart sank. Car accident. I was badly hurt, in a coma for 3 months, to keep you from worrying and to let you start a new life. My family blocked the news and told you I went abroad with another woman. They knew your parents' character, knew they wouldn't let you marry a man who might become an invalid. Alexander's voice was calm, but I could imagine his despair back then, lying in a hospital bed, life uncertain, cut off from the person he loved by his own family. Then, why did David know? My voice trembled. The Gu and Lou families were business rivals. They were happiest when I crashed. They were fighting for a project with my family. When I fell, The project went to them. Alexander paused, coldness flashing in his eyes. They not only knew I was hurt, but helped my family spread the rumor that I abandoned you to run away with a rich girl. So, David knew everything from the start. He knew you were kept in the dark, knew how sad you were. Then, posing as a savior, he appeared by your side and logically married you. Boom. My brain exploded. All the fragments pieced together a cruel and complete truth. I always thought David just didn't love me. Now I knew he was a liar through and through from the start. He wasn't my safety net. He was a robber who broke in. He stole 5 years of my life. He enjoyed my care with peace of mind, watching me suffer over a fake love, probably mocking my stupidity inside. Meanwhile, he played the saint of love waiting for his white moonlight. How despicable. How shameless. An anger I had never felt before surged from the bottom of my heart. I thought I was indifferent to David, but now I realized hate could run deeper than love. My hand shook, not from fear, but from extreme rage. Alexander hugged me tightly. I'm sorry, Emily. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. I shook my head, tears finally breaking the dam. Not tears of sadness, but of anger for the worthlessness of those 5 years. I cried in his arms for a long time. Then I wiped my tears and sat up. My heart was calmer than ever, and harder than ever. I picked up my phone and dialed David. He answered after a long time, sounding weak and nasal, as if he had been crying. Hello. Ignoring his fragility, I spoke coldly. David, let's meet. At the old place. The old bridge south of the city. The old bridge was where my fate with David began. 5 years ago. Heartbroken over Alexander. A friend organized an outing. By this bridge, I met David. He was gentle and caring, a light in my gray world. Now I knew that light was full of calculation from the start. When I arrived, David was already there. He leaned on the railing, looking at the water, his back desolate. Sarah was there too. She stood by him, holding his arm. Seeing me, she showed a smug, provocative smile. She probably thought I came to beg for reconciliation. Emily, why are you here? David turned, his eyes complex hatred, unwillingness, and a trace of expectation he didn't even notice. I came to tell you one thing. I walked up to them, looking at David calmly. 5 years ago, you knew about Alexander's car accident. David's face changed instantly. You? What are you talking about? I didn't know. He denied it subconsciously. Sarah was stunned, looking at him in confusion. You not only knew, you helped his family spread rumors that he abandoned me. Ignoring his defense, I peeled off his hypocritical mask step by step. You watched me suffer, then appeared like a hero, telling me you'd treat me well. David, you didn't love me. You just enjoyed the thrill of stealing your rival's most cherished thing. Our marriage, from the beginning, was just a trophy you used to humiliate Alexander and satisfy your pathetic ego. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was a hammer smashing into David's heart. His face went from red to white, then to dead gray. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word, because it was all true. Sarah was dumbfounded. She looked at David with shock and disgust. Her image of the deeply affectionate man waiting for love was just a fraud who climbed up using despicable means. Her love became a joke too. No, David. What she said isn't true. Right. Sarah shook his arm, but David just lowered his head, trembling, not daring to look at her. The truth was self-evident. Sarah flung his hand away, stumbling back, looking at him like he was garbage. Watching this ridiculous scene, I felt no more waves in my heart. I had said what I needed to say. It was time to say goodbye to all this completely. I turned to leave. Don't go. David suddenly rushed up, grabbing my wrist from behind. His grip was strong, like he wanted to crush my bones. Emily, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. He was crying, snot and tears all over his face, looking wretched. I admit it. I was jealous of Alexander. I used dirty tactics. But, Emily, in these 5 years, I really fell in love with you. Give me another chance. Okay, he begged incoherently. I pried his fingers open, one by one. David, looking at his tear-streaked face, I spoke clearly. Some things, once broken, stay broken. Some people, once seen clearly, can never be returned to. With that, I walked toward the other end of the bridge without looking back. There, a black Bentley was waiting. Alexander leaned against the car door, watching me quietly.